Putin's speech at the Valdai Club meeting is a milestone about the multipolar world. October 2025 in Sochi witnessed something notable. Vladimir Putin delivered a speech at the Valdai Discussion Club that was a complete blueprint for understanding why the global order is transforming right before our eyes. For 22 years, the Valdai Club has been hosting conversations about global affairs, but this year's session was different. During his speech and the question time, Putin got the chance to explain exactly why institutions like BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization are reshaping how nations interact, and why so many countries from the global south are racing to join them. I am sure that most of you will find this video a deep clarification of what BRICS is and how it moves for the sake of humanity. So stay with me till the end and please share your thoughts with us. Here is what most analysts miss about multipolarity. It didn't emerge from some ideological movement or philosophical debate. According to Putin, multipolarity came into existence as a direct consequence of attempts to maintain global hegemony. The international system essentially developed an immune response to being arranged into a single hierarchy with Western nations at the top. This is something to think about for a moment. Nations weren't rebelling against an idea. They were rejecting a system that promised security and prosperity but delivered nothing. The failure happened relatively quick by historical standards, and what we are witnessing now is the global response to decades of broken promises. Which historical moment do you think best represents when this shift truly began? Putin's assessment of the old liberal world order cuts straight to the core issue. The hierarchy was actually appealing to some nations because it removed responsibility. You could simply accept the terms, integrate into the system, and let others make the decisions for you. But here is the problem that destroyed it from within. This approach failed to solve any significant global problems and continuously created new ones. The countries playing the role of what Putin called grandees experienced internal overstrain, raising questions among their own citizens about why they needed such ambitious global control in the first place. The system collapsed under the weight of its own contradictions. Here is the moment to ask you for your help. So, dear friends, hit that like button and share this video. Your support helps us continue bringing you this critical analysis. So, next goal for next year is 200,000 subscribers. Following the words of the Russian president, SCO's origin story reveals everything about why consensus-based institutions succeed where hierarchical ones fail. It started with former Soviet republics and China needing to resolve border disputes, and they accomplished this with remarkable effectiveness. The framework made all the difference. Solutions emerged not through imposed directives, but through genuine alignment of positions. The organization demonstrated high effectiveness in its primary task before expanding its scope of activity. This became the template for how multipolar institutions should function. When nations approach each other as equals with genuine respect for sovereignty, they can resolve even the most sensitive territorial issues. And recently, just by September 2025, President Xi Jinping announced at the SCO summit in Tianjin that the organization will establish a new development bank, committing 2 billion renminbi in grants plus another 10 billion renminbi in loans. We made a couple of videos about the recent SCO summit. Please take a look. Then BRICS came. The formation of BRICS followed a similarly organic path, and the founding reveals everything about its appeal. The initial framework was RIC, Russia, India, and China, proposed during a meeting in St. Petersburg. Putin recalled a crucial observation from those early discussions that became the philosophical foundation. There are no people here who want to push themselves forward at any cost, push their interest, but everyone understood that balance should be sought. This principle of seeking balance rather than advantage changed everything. When Brazil and South Africa joined, they entered a space where no single power dominated and every member's civilizational specificity was respected. Now, in January 2025, Indonesia has become the 10th member of the bloc, becoming the first Southeast Asian state to join. As of July 2025, the extended BRICS Plus has 20 members and partners, representing 55.6% of the world population and 43.9% of the global economy, measured at purchasing power parity. Nations under colonial rule see BRICS and SCO as fundamentally different. These organizations operate without hierarchy or subordination. They exist for members' development, not against anyone. This resonates with nations treated as junior partners, now implementing civilizational interests with confidence to defend them against external influence. A question for you: what do you think attracts countries most? Economic opportunity or political sovereignty? Putin framed this as a new wave of decolonization that goes far deeper than mid-20th century independence movements. Former colonies are now acquiring complete political, economic, cultural, and ideological sovereignty. BRICS and the SCO offer spaces where nations can cooperate without surrendering their decision-making authority or compromising their civilizational identities. Russia's experience under unprecedented sanctions provides empirical evidence for Putin's thesis about the inevitability. With over 30,000 restrictions, Russia became the global record holder for sanctions. The goal was to push Russia out of the world system and into economic autarky, demonstrating what happens to nations that challenge the established order. The complete collapse of this strategy revealed something crucial. The global system simply will not release Russia because Russia is essential for overall world balance. This balance is economic, strategic, cultural, and logistical, woven into the fabric of global interdependence. Putin highlighted a telling example that exposes contradictions in Western policy. Despite severe political tensions, Russia remains the second largest supplier of enriched uranium to the United States market, accounting for approximately 25% of American nuclear fuel. The trade is stable, profitable for both sides, and expected to surpass $1.2 billion in 2025. Meanwhile, Washington pressures nations like China and India to cease purchasing Russian raw materials and energy. But the economic logic is inevitable. If India refuses Russian energy, it loses up to $10 billion. If it accepts high tariffs as punishment, it loses similar amounts. The lesson for global South nations is clear. Major powers apply rules to others that they refuse to follow themselves. Putin outlined the defining characteristics of this new multipolar environment that make it simultaneously more democratic and more dangerous. The space is open and creative, with little predetermined, meaning much depends on the precision and thoughtfulness of every participant's actions. Changes occur rapidly and unpredictably, requiring instant, real-time responses. The space is far more democratic, opening opportunities for a large number of political and economic players to influence major regional and global processes. Cultural, historical, and civilizational specifics of different nations play a greater role than ever before. Viable solutions are only possible based on agreements that satisfy all interested parties or a vast majority, requiring harmony and balance rather than simple majority rule. While the weakening of previous dictates represents clear benefits, establishing a stable balance has become far harder and constitutes severe risk. Putin called for a renaissance of high diplomatic art, a return to classic diplomacy that demands attention, mutual respect, and the ability to negotiate with both partners and opponents. This stands in contrast to what he termed Western diplomacy of monologue, where decisions are announced rather than negotiated. The spirit of 21st century diplomacy requires moving beyond bloc philosophy and rigid externally imposed obligations featuring senior and junior partners. The foundational principle becomes the ability to reconcile interests that may not always align but are generally not antagonistic. This approach demands patience, cultural sensitivity, and genuine willingness to find mutually acceptable solutions. Putin grounded his vision in values developed over centuries within national cultures: history, ethics, religious norms, geography, and space. These elements create unique civilizations that cannot be forced into universal models. He acknowledged that forced unification failed for both the Soviet Union and Western globalism. Diversity requires respect, not standardization. Putin's conclusion at the Valdai Forum was clear: a multipolar reality is permanent, and a stable world order requires a universal effort. The era of small groups deciding for everyone has ended. BRICS and the SCO jointly draft new guidelines, providing prototypes for complex diplomacy. Their success proves that cooperation based on equality addresses challenges better than hierarchies. These institutions grow because they offer genuine partnership, allowing nations to pursue civilizational paths while defending sovereignty. There is no turning back. I am sure you have lots of things to say now, and we will be happy to read your point of view below this video. Thanks for watching.
Спасибо большое. Спасибо.